All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here as we have the trade deadline heard around the world. Let's talk about it. So the New York Jets busy on trade deadline day. Usually the trade deadline during the NFL season is very, very quiet. Sometimes you don't hear a whole heck of a lot that's going on. And it certainly pales in comparison to Major League Baseball, which is always very much anticipated every July. Well, let's just say things changed this time around as the Jets decided to have a fire sale. And it could have been a lot worse. Could have been a lot more leaving Florham Park this week. But instead, the Jets send out two of their top players, Pro Bowlers Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, out the door. Very surprising for a load of draft picks. So, boy, there's a lot to unpack here, folks. After this one, my initial reaction is really just shock. I didn't expect at all the Jets to make trades of two of their top defensive players, two players that one would think were going to be cornerstones of this franchise moving forward. You have Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, and I'm going to break this down a little bit more in a bit, but these are, again, two franchise players. Yes, there are issues with Sauce Gardner, and as far as production, certainly that's the case. Quinnen Williams, this year, this is a guy who's been a Pro Bowl player throughout his career, been a great player for the Jets throughout his career the last 6 years. This year felt like he's hit a wall almost invisible. I remember talking to friends saying, where's Quinnen Williams? What? We don't hear his name much at all this year, only one sack. And we'll get into more of what may be reasons why he's had such a bad year because of issues he's had with Glenn in the front office. But this is now on them now. The front office, Aaron Glenn, Darren Mougey, to really figure this out, because when you trade pieces that are this good, you better, and you get a big return that the Jets got, and they got a huge return, you got to knock it out of the park with those picks. You got to knock it out of the park with those picks, and it's a 50-50 proposition that it would work out to begin with. Just on the surface, it's a 50-50 proposition, so there's a lot more pressure now on these guys to get it right, because they gave up two big pieces to try to build a team that they feel is going to fit their identity. And also, if you're one of these guys that's been left, like a Breece Hall, like a Jermaine Johnson, you're disgruntled. Do you really want to be here too much more? Breece Hall, sounds like he wants out. So there's a lot more things that have to be figured out here as we move along here, not just with this season, but beyond this season and going into the offseason. The first thing, let's just go through the brass tacks here of how this all broke down. Nobody in their right mind thought that Sauce Gardner, after signing a 4-year, $120 million extension with the Jets, would go anywhere. He and Garrett Wilson were the untouchables, right? They weren't going anywhere. But that changed yesterday when the Colts apparently came in with a heck of an offer. And when you get an offer for 2 first-round picks for a player who is, let's just say it, I'll be honest, Sauce Gardner is a good player. He's not Darrelle Revis. He's not an all-world cornerback. Good player, but not one of the best, at least in my mind, in the league. And you get 2 first-round picks. The Jets felt the need and felt compelled to go ahead and make that move. It stunned the heck out of me. And certainly after a 4-year extension, you would think that he wouldn't be traded. But, of course, Darren Mougey explained during his press conference that the Jets had structured a contract, and even Garrett Wilson's contract, in a way that would make it tradable, in a way that they could move it with a whole bunch of, with a manageable amount of quote-unquote upfront money, whatever that means, with rolling guarantees. Either way, the Jets going to pay down a certain amount of money for the remaining 4 years of that contract, where the Colts certainly pick up their end of the tab financially. But there goes Sauce Gardner, who was a first-round draft pick of Joe Douglas a few years ago, back in 2022. He was going to be the next Darrelle Revis. He was going to be a linchpin in that defense, and it just did not work out. I hate to say it just did not work out. I am stunned that he's gone, because the talent was always there. It's hard to find good corners. It's very hard to find good corners who are 6'3" and guys who can blanket receivers. And as far as covering receivers are concerned, he was very good at it. I won't take it away from him. What was disappointing about Sauce Gardner, I think, in his tenure with the Jets is his production after his rookie year. He was very good his rookie year. It really took a huge hit. It dropped seemingly every year. You go from 75 tackles and 2 interceptions his rookie year to all of a sudden 57 tackles, no picks in 2023, 49 tackles, 1 pick in 2024, and then this year only 20 tackles, no turnovers forced. Long and the short of it is, over the last 2.5 seasons, Sauce Gardner only forced 1 turnover. That was it. 1. And only 1 forced fumble. That's it. And for a player who plays that position, you want to see someone that talented and that ilk force a lot more turnovers, get more interceptions, and become that kind of guy you really don't want to throw to. Teams didn't throw to him in his direction anyway because of the threat that he posed, but you want to have that guy who could be that big, even more of a threat because he is able to get his hands on the ball. A lot of times, whenever I watch Sauce Gardner, he has his back towards the quarterback, back towards the ball. Sometimes he gets called for pass interference. A lot of times he got away with it. Talented player, but one who has been a disappointment, at least in my mind, over the last couple of years. And if you're the Jets and you get 2 first-round picks, it's hard not to be tempted by it, even though you're going to have to use one of those picks to replace that kind of talent. And we'll get into more of that in a minute. Then, of course, the Quinnen Williams trade, which has been kind of under the radar, obviously, until yesterday, obviously, because as Connor Hughes reported in his conversation with Zach Rosenblatt that they do, their podcast they do on SNY, and Hughes revealed that Quinnen Williams was not happy being here certainly over the last couple of months because he felt that this team was going through another rebuild. Here's a guy in his 7th year. He wants to win. He wants to win now. He's not getting any younger. He's, at 30, and he wants to be on a winning team. Wasn't happy with the fact that Jets traded away, or not, I shouldn't say traded away, released Aaron Rodgers. Not happy with the direction of Aaron Glenn and Darren Mougey were going in, and had requested a trade at 3 different points. So at that point, you try to do what's best for the player, and the Jets and Quinnen Williams met. They found a team that wanted him. He wanted to go to Dallas. He wanted to be a Cowboy, and the Cowboys gave up a lot. They gave up a second-round pick this year in 2026, or next year, I should say, and then a first-round pick in 2027, which could change because of a certain situation that Dallas has with Green Bay. Could change the weight of where that pick may be in the first round, 2027. But the fact is, the Jets get a first and they get a second in the Quinnen Williams trade, and that's a heck of a haul for a player who is approaching 30, who has right now, I would say about a year and a half left on his contract, with an opt-out year in 2027. If there's an opt-in, it's another $25.5 million. I mean, the Cowboys are going to be really, they gave up a lot in value for a player who potentially could be there for about a year and a half, maybe even 2.5 years, and getting around 23, 24, upwards of $25 million on average over the next couple of years. So that's a lot for Dallas to give up. And some people have been saying that, terrible move by Dallas. Why would you do that, especially when you're not in the playoffs? I mean, right now, Dallas is on the outside looking in. They're 3-5-1. Lost to Arizona the other day. They look terrible. Apparently, Jerry Jones wanted to get Quinnen Williams even back in September. The Jets were called about Micah Parsons, and it just did not work out. Jets didn't want to do that, even though Micah Parsons is an all-world player, which is kind of makes you shake your head on that one when you think about it. But the Jets make that move now, and they get the draft picks, and they get the compensation for Quinnen Williams in the Dallas Cowboys trade. Now, of course, there are repercussions from this. Garrett Wilson, who also signed a 4-year extension, $130 million with the Jets, he's not going anywhere. Jets called him untouchable. Breece Hall, who was rumored to be traded, Not going to get traded now. Of course, not going to get traded now. He is not happy. He wanted to get traded. If you read the tweets by Jordan Schultz, Brees Hall wanted out of here. He wanted to get the heck out of here. You certainly can understand that. The thing with Brees Hall is this. I said in my last video that this is a incredibly talented player at the position of running back. I would hate to see the Jets lose him. This was, of course, before the trade deadline happened. And I still feel that if both sides can come to terms of an agreement, they should, because he's an incredibly talented player and he can help your team. Certainly when you figure out what you're going to do at the quarterback position, more on that in a moment. But when it comes to doing right by the player, if Brees Hall is that disgruntled, we see his cryptic posts on social media. If he's that disgruntled, you have to do right by the player. You did right by Quinnen Williams. I think you also have to do right by Brees Hall. The Jets didn't. They wanted a third-round pick. The Kansas City Chiefs, who were rumored to go out and pursue Brees Hall, only offered up a fourth. Jets didn't like that package. To me, you're getting a third, you're getting a fourth. Kansas City's on the bottom. It will be on the bottom of that round anyway, so it's almost like a fourth-round pick to begin with. I understand why the Jets want more, but you weren't going to get off of that, so they keep Brees Hall. But again, I felt if he doesn't want to be here, you got to do right by the player, because now you're in a situation where you have to either franchise tag him in the offseason or come together on a long-term contract. And if he is that disgruntled, is he going to want to be here? And if you franchise tag him, that creates a whole heck of a lot more drama, next offseason and next summer. Holdouts, God knows what could happen. And then, of course, the other player, Jermaine Johnson, who the Jets were floating out there. I think I saw something about the Jets wanted a second-round pick for him. They didn't get it. So they're going to keep him. Quincy Williams, they'll also keep for now. But if you're going to keep these guys, I'm going to echo what I've heard from a lot of others. You got to find ways to keep these guys long-term if they're going to be pieces of your franchise moving forward. You can try to break it down and try to rebuild, but you need cornerstone players, and you need guys who are talented players to move forward with. So you just traded away your top corner. You just traded away your best, when your leaders on the front seven on defense. What now? And I think that's the thing that the Jets have to answer is, what now? You have all this draft capital. You have now multiple first-round picks. You have a first-round pick from the Colts for this year. You have a first-rounder next year from the Cowboys. You have a couple of second-rounders in there. So you can do a whole heck of a lot of things. You can draft your quarterback. You could get your quarterback conceivably with the draft this year, whether with the first, top of the first-round pick that you're going to have regardless, whether you're picking first, third, fourth, whatever it is in the top 10. Or you could, use that with that Colts pick and use it then. Or you can wait a year. You can, maybe wait until the second round. Or you can wait until next year, the following year in 2027. You can do whatever you want with that. You can also use those picks on a corner, which you're going to have to do now. A defensive tackle, wide receiver. You're going to have to get creative. Or you could also do this if you're Darren Mougey and the Jets. You could go out there and trade those picks. Maybe move them for someone else's starting quarterback. And no one's going to like to hear this name out there, but, the Arizona Cardinals, it sounds like they might move on from Kyler Murray, that they're, going to go start with Jacoby Brissett for now, for the rest of the season. I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy. I'm not a big fan of him. He's not much different than Justin Fields. He's a guy who's more of a running back than a quarterback. Do you want to go pursue that? I've heard some Jet fans going out there saying, hey, why don't the Jets go out there and, contact the Cincinnati Bengals about Joe Burrow. Great player. Would love to see the Jets go out there and get that kind of player in the prime of his career, but, and there is a but, Burrow, kind of a diva, and also gets hurt. He's had a couple of injuries, including this year where he's now missing almost the entire season. So there's always risks in those kind of moves, but those are options that are on the table that the Jets could go out there and, pursue a quarterback who is a veteran, established guy by using that draft capital to entice another team. So those are things that now sit in the front of Darren Mougey and Aaron Glenn. So for those of you who were all on the fire Glenn, fire Mougey, restart again, in 2026, it's not going to happen, folks. These guys are going to make the decisions of what this roster is now going to look like moving forward. They're going to be trusted now to build what they see as a productive franchise moving forward. Whether you like that or not, there's nothing we can do about it. And whether you can trust these guys or not, we're going to have to wait and see. So there's a risk-reward, obviously, with this. If the Jets get this right, with multiple, day 1 draft picks and day 2 second-round draft picks, if they get this right, congratulations to them. But there's also a chance you could get that wrong. It's a 50-50 proposition. And you trade away 2, basically blue-chip pieces to your defense in order to make that happen, in order to move forward to the future, and you still have questions about some of the guys that you already have on the roster who may feel disgruntled, may feel that there is no place for them at this point on this team moving forward. So there's a lot of questions that have to be answered for the Jets, again, beyond just wins and whatever games are left this year, 9 games left, 8 games left at 1-7. Whether they finish, 1-16, 3-14, that's besides the point. It's now about how's this roster going to get shaped in 2026? That was what we found out yesterday. We just took our first steps to doing that. But now we're really going to find out how good Darren Mougey is as a GM, and we're going to find out how good of a talent evaluator also Aaron Glenn is when it comes to finding players, and both of these guys as talent evaluators. We're going to find that out very, very soon. Now that they have taken away 2 big chips to this team, and now said we're going to put our chips move our chips forward to the table, and look forward to the draft in 2026. As far as the Giants are concerned, they were dead silent on draft day. They were dead silent on the trade deadline yesterday. They didn't make any moves. What does that mean? Does that mean that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen are in trouble? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Remember, last year they didn't make any moves at the deadline and still found a way later on in last spring's draft to make some moves and move up in the draft to get Jackson Dart. So I can't sit here and tell you that the Giants' inactivity means that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll know they're on the hot seat and they don't want to, make moves to get more draft picks for the Giants when they won't be making those picks. Possible, but that's kind of narrow-sided in my mind. I don't think that's. We'll see. But the fact is, the Giants are sitting there at 2-7. Their season has spiraled out of control since that Denver game, which was a complete catastrophe. They've given up their defense 30 points in each of the last 3 games, all losses. Of course, the injury to Cam Sketabo against the Eagles, notwithstanding, was hideous. And Jackson Dart continues to take big hits. I mean, even last week against San Francisco, he's crouching down on the sideline. Looks like he's just trying to shake it off or trying to. The Giants are not protecting that kid. And if he continues to take hits to the head, he is not going to last much longer. I'm worried about what his future is going to be with the Giants. And I don't know if the Giants do blow up as far as their coaching staff and GM at the end of the year. New coach, new GM, they could come in here and say, you know what, we want to start fresh. We don't want Jackson Dart as our quarterback. And if the Giants are sitting there in the top 5 of the draft, what stops a new coach and a new GM from doing that? From going out and getting another quarterback like let's say a Fernando Mendoza or a Dante Moore. If they end up slipping to the Giants in the draft, say, let's just go with that player instead of Jackson Dart, who just seems like he gets hurt. Or do they build? Or does that new staff, if there is one, build around him? Of course, that's just all speculative. We don't know what the Giants are going to do. They may end up bringing back Daboll and Schoen. But it's interesting that the Giants, who could have maybe moved some pieces, gotten some draft capital back for next year, were very silent, didn't do anything on trade deadline day yesterday. So we'll see what that means moving forward. Folks, like and subscribe. We will talk to you next time right here on Sports Talk Nation. Talk to you later.